Stop making decisions and start making choices. In today's episode, that's what we're going to be talking about. This is the Half Truth series. This is the second, but first, that's officially named the Half Truths. This is a series of half truths. Basically, what that means is I'm going to share with you a different perspective, or maybe a different perspective than you've had before. It doesn't mean that the truths or the understandings that you had before are invalid. It's just simply those were your half truths, and I'm filling in the other side. So, what does it mean to make a decision, and what does it mean to make a choice? Let's think about what the words actually mean. I think when we talk about making decisions and choices, oftentimes they can be used interchangeably. But if you think about the specific meaning of the word when you're thinking about the process of making a decision versus making a choice, you'll begin to understand how different they actually are. It took me some time to come to this realization, but what really helped me was understanding the root of the word decide. So, the etymology, or where the word decide comes from. The root of the word decide is to cut. So, basically, when you are deciding, you're cutting out all of the other options until you're left with just one. So, in terms of making decisions, what's actually happening is you're weighing pros and cons, thinking about like the different pieces and why one option is not appropriate for you, and you're kind of getting rid of all the things that are not the right thing until you're left with one final decision. And that's how you come to a decision. Uh, Making a choice is simply making a choice. So you're just picking the thing that you want. And what you pick based on will be a number of different factors that come in. But at the end of this video, towards the end of this, we're going to simplify that as well. So what's the difference between making a choice and a decision? Decision involves a lot of thought, and there's weighing pros and cons, and you're kind of cutting out until you're left with one option. Choice is you're understanding what you want and then going to get it. If you think about a menu, right? You sit down at a restaurant, there's a menu, appetizers, main courses, desserts, drinks, all of these things. If you had to decide what to eat, and sometimes we go through this process, you're looking at all of the different items on the menu and deciding which ones kind of like fit. And what you might do is a process of elimination. I think ultimately people end up making decisions and choices altogether, which is you probably cut out a bunch of things that you don't like maybe I don't like chicken, maybe I don't like meat, maybe I'm a vegetarian. Uh, there might be certain foods that you can't eat, so that will kind of cut down the list. It will narrow down the choices, or it will narrow down the options that you can make a choice out of then. Sometimes when you're going through and making decisions, you're left with a number of different things that are kind of like equal value to you. You could kind of go with any of them, and ultimately that's where the choice comes in. You are picking the one that you want. So if you had a whole menu, rather than getting to know what you're going to eat, you don't have to go through every single item and kind of get rid pros and cons and then finally be left with like one item. You may go into a restaurant and understand that this is what I want to eat. That's the choice that you've made. So how does this how does this spread out, and where does this become important? I think where that becomes important is into life decisions. When you're making life decisions, a lot of times we do our best to make the right decision, which means get a list of all the available options, weigh the pros and cons, and then kind of look at them side by side and start getting rid of certain options until we're left with one option or two options, and then you have to make the hard choice, right? Of if these two things are equal, let's say you got two job offers and they are exactly the same. How do you choose? And of course, there will be other factors and other information like who you're working with, the place that you're working, the culture of the place that you're working. But all of those things may kind of just factor in unconsciously on a different level. What happens is when you're trying to make decisions, you end up thinking too much. Deciding is a very head focused activity. And if you actually think about the choices that you've made in your life, how many of them have you chosen with your mind? Which is to say, even if you weigh all the pros and cons together, you've collected all this information, right? Like you know the benefits, you know the limitations of different things that you choose. How how do you use that information to get down to that final choice? When you're thinking about decisions and choices that you've made in the past, how much has that factored in to the choice that you've made? Or is the choice guided by something else? And this is the part of the video where I share with you how you can make easier choices and decisions. And that's really through your human design strategy and authority. Through strategy and authority, you will get the opportunities that are coming to you. But we'll park strategy on the side because strategy is basically the way of moving through the world, and it's almost just about focusing your attention on what to look at. We're not talking about that today. Today, we're just talking about making choices. And the guiding light for choices is your internal decision-making authority. So for every person, there is a decision-making authority. And basically that is a part of you that will tell you you can think of it as a body feel or a body sense. It's almost like a instinct or an intuition or a knowing that something is right for you. And if you've made some big decisions in your life, think back to the ones that you are really happy with. And if you had like an internal sense, like an instinct that this was the right choice. And if you've made some big decisions and regretted them, you may think that did you go with your head and ignore your gut? The gut is one of the big authorities that is for about 70% of the people of the population, they are ruled by a sacral authority, which means that is that indicator of what is most right for them. There's a whole bunch of different ones, and I'm not going to get into all of them right now, but ultimately, the majority of people will feel some type of gut feeling that it's the right choice for them. There's also other types like a splenic authority, which is a instantaneous knowing in the now. It's almost like you get an intuitive hit and you're like, this is the thing that I want, or this is the right decision for me. I might not know why. And at the same time, I know that it's the right decision or the right choice for me. I can get deeper into all of these different things, but ultimately, the first layer is to understand whether you're making decisions or choices in your life. If you are constantly stuck in like decision-making fatigue, you're like, I have like so many decisions and I can't decide because I feel like I don't have enough information. I'm constantly like weighing the lists of like the pros and cons of all the different things, and I'm trying to like get rid of some options, but then I can't fully get rid of them because what if, what if, what if, what if? I think there's a lot of ways where we can continue to drag out that decision-making process. So if you are focusing and making more decisions in your life, you may be doing too much, which leads to anxiety and stress and burnout because you're basically like running and operating in a way that is not ideal for you, which is to say, you can only ever make one choice. Given all the choices and all the options available, you could decide and pare down some of those decisions, but ultimately you're choosing one thing. My assumption is because you are one person and you are going to be making one choice at a time, there is one choice that is best for you. There might be other choices that are also okay, and then there are other choices that are just not for you. But if we want to continue to if you want to live an aligned and authentic life, that means you're simply just making one choice after another that continues to align with you because those choices will lead to actions. And when you do make choices that are aligned with you and take actions that are aligned with you, then you will feel more aligned. So think right now, or think going forward, whether or not you are making decisions or choices. And when you are faced with a number of different options, are you deciding or are you choosing? Think about this also in a broader sense, in terms of the things that you feel or that you've assumed that you just have to do. Um, Even if you feel like you have to do something, you are still making a choice to do that thing. For example, if you work and your work starts at 9 a.m., you don't have to be there at 9 a.m. There may be consequences if you are not there at that time, but you are choosing to be there because there are reasons, like you want to be on time, you respecting the people that you work with, and all of those things. If you put the decision-making authority outside of yourself, which is to say somebody has told me that I have to be here at this time, then the choice has been made for you. And that becomes a difficult position to be in because then you realize that or then you feel like you don't have a choice. When you then start moving through your day, like you're making choices, you're making the choice to do every single action in your day, then you begin to look at the way that you move through your life much differently. So think about that. Uh, think about whether or not you want to choose to like or subscribe this video, if this was helpful for you, and if this half truth was a different truth than you have conceptualized in your mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts below in the comments. So until the next time, until the next half truth, I will wish you well.